I am Susan Sharp Campbell, Associate for Educational Ministry for the Presbytery of West Virginia, and this is an overview of the spring stated meeting of the Presbytery that will take place on Thursday, May 18th at Bridgeport Presbyterian Church beginning at 10 a.m. In this video, I'll be covering some of the highlights of that meeting. These can be found in the Presbytery packet, which can be located at www.wvpresbytery.org. I hope that if you have not already read this material, you will plan to do so before arriving at Bridgeport on Thursday. Please be aware that if you are attending the meeting, we no longer print packets for everyone. If you desire a printed packet, please contact the Presbytery office at 304-744-7634 or by email at office@wvpresbytery.org. Otherwise, to have access to the packet during the meeting, you will need to download it in advance, as you may not be able to access Wi-Fi in the sanctuary. There are three core values for our presbytery. These underlie all of our ministry and work. These are ministry supporting our churches, mission serving our communities, and building relationships, building connections with God and one another. Some of the people to note at this meeting are Susan Perry, who is our moderator. She is a ruling elder from First Presbyterian Church in Logan. Ed Thompson is our general presbyter, and Maureen Wright is our stated clerk. The structure of the meeting will be as follows. After greetings from the pastor of the host church, there's a brief time of business in the morning. This will be used for welcoming teaching elders who are new to the presbytery, seating new corresponding members. These are teaching elders laboring inside the bounds of the Presbytery of West Virginia, though they belong to a different presbytery, and recognition of ruling elder commissioners who are attending their first presbytery meeting in this role. This is also a time to indicate that a quorum is present. A quorum for a stated meeting of the presbytery is 20% of the teaching elder members and 20% of the churches represented by a ruling elder. Following the approval of the docket, the consent agenda will be under consideration. The consent agenda includes those items that those involved in planning the meeting anticipate will not generate further discussion. However, if there's an item on the consent agenda that anyone wants to have the opportunity to discuss, and it only takes one person, even if it's just one of the A or B items under a report, this item will be removed and will come up during the corresponding committee report later in the meeting. Items on the consent agenda for Thursday include approval of excused absences, approval of terms of call and changes of terms and call for installed pastors, approval of covenants and covenant renewals for temporary supply pastors and commissioned ruling elders. For those serving in pastoral positions that are not installed positions, these must be renewed yearly. Approval of moderators in churches without teaching elders. Approval of an authorized lay preacher to preside at communion. And approval of our offering today going to West Virginia Ministry of Advocacy and Work Camps. The final two items of this portion of the business meeting are the appointment of temporary clerks. These are ruling elders and teaching elders who are appointed by the moderator to hand out any materials during the meeting and to count any votes other than voice votes. And the appointment of the Standing Committee on Bills and Overtures, who are leadership team members present who would review any new business that was proposed and make recommendations. Following these items of business, the rest of the morning will include a time of focus and education on the Protestant Reformation, as on October 31st, 2017, we will celebrate 500 years since Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Chapel in Germany. This will be followed by an announcement by Nellie Howard, our Resource Center Director. She will have resources available to be checked out, including some on the Protestant Reformation for churches to use as they study this important time in our history. The final part of our morning session will be worship, as we continue to commemorate the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. After lunch, we will gather back with a hymn and a prayer. As part of the prayer, those ruling elders and teaching elders who passed away in 2016 and were not acknowledged at the last meeting of Presbytery will be remembered. Their names are listed under information item 7 in the stated clerk's report. Then we will move into reports of Presbytery staff and committees. These reports usually consist of two parts: recommendations that must be voted on by the Presbytery, and information that is shared with the Presbytery. while individual reports require a second. Reports from committees do not, as by implication they have already been reviewed and members of the committee believe that this is business that should come before the whole presbytery. Maureen Wright's report as stated clerk contains information on correspondence that she has received and action that has been taken on it. Session statistical reports have now been turned in and session records reviews have taken place. You'll find the results as part of the stated clerk's report. Please check what it says about your church. In the same way that church statistical reports are submitted to the denomination each February, a statistical report is also submitted by the presbytery through the stated clerk. The statistical report of the presbytery that is referenced in this report will actually be included in the packet for August presbytery meeting. Excuse me. It is at this point in the meeting that the procedural matters will be reviewed. These can be found on page 9 in the packet and are divided into 3 parts. The first part has to do with principles of parliamentary law. And these include courtesy to all, majority rule, one item at a time, respect the rights of the minority, partiality for none. Usually pro and con speakers alternate and each identifies his or her position before speaking. And no one can speak more than once on an item until all wishing to speak have been heard. Then a person can speak a second time, but no more without special permission. The second part in the procedural matters refers to relevant portions of Presbytery's manual, which state that no new business shall be introduced after lunch without vote on a different deadline, and that any new business shall be presented in written form. It also identifies who has voice and who has voice and vote. The final section on the procedural matter states the procedural rules. First, persons wishing to speak will do so by using the microphone. Each speaker, after recognition by the moderator, will give his or her name and church name or other relationship to the presbytery. Debate on each item, given approval by 2/3 vote of participants at the beginning of the meeting, is limited to 30 minutes per main motion, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes. Given that the packet is available online, please be prepared to stick to this time frame. And please know it is not helpful to talk for 2.5 minutes about how limited this time is, and then in the remaining time to speak to the issue. And a recommendation from a committee or other entity of the presbytery does not need a motion or second from the floor. Please note that anyone speaking on the floor of presbytery shall address their comments to the moderator, not to those sitting in the pews or to those who have previously spoken. The report of the General Presbyter gives you an overview of the work that Ed Thompson has been doing, and also a sense of some of the work being done by others on the presbytery staff. The next 3 items on our agenda contain the reports of administrative commissions which have been working with 3 churches in our presbytery. Each church through its session has requested to be dissolved. There's a recommendation to dissolve the McLean Presbyterian Church in Ronsford, and accompanying recommendations to transfer the property and assets, along with rationale and background information. The church plans to continue as a community church. There's a recommendation to dissolve the Montgomery Presbyterian Church, which ceased to be a worshiping community in December 2016 due to significant decline in membership. A history of the church is provided for you. And there's a recommendation to dissolve the Terra Alta Presbyterian Church. It too has been declining in membership. With the recommendation to dissolve is also a recommendation to lease this property. If these recommendations to dissolve are approved, there will be a time of celebration for the life and ministry of these congregations, as they have been part of our presbytery and our denomination for a number of years. We now come to that portion of the agenda largely dedicated to committee reports. As I mentioned earlier, these are usually in 2 parts: recommendations to be voted on, and information about the ongoing work of the committee. The first committee report is that of the Bluestone Committee, which supports the life, mission, and ministry of Bluestone Camp and Retreat Center as a vibrant center for Christian discipleship. Next, good news from the pews is an opportunity for ruling elders, and ruling elders only, please, to share some of the exciting things that are happening in their churches. The intent behind this is that perhaps someone else will hear what another church is doing and find some ideas and inspiration in what is shared. If you are your session's ruling elder commissioner and would like to share, please be prepared to do so in a fairly concise manner. The Ministry Committee report is next. Much of this report will likely have been taken care of with the consent agenda. But other recommendations this committee will be bringing include approval of change in terms of call for Skip Seibel in the First Presbyterian Church of Huntington. The recommendation is that he be called as pastor rather than associate pastor there. This is permissible under our current Book of Order, but requires a 3/4 vote of the members of Presbytery present and voting. Second item to be taken up with the Ministry Committee is the restoration of Sharon Bell to Minister of Word and Sacrament, or teaching elder. You will find the rationale for this and her story in the Presbytery packet on the website. You'll also find a number of pieces of additional information in the Ministry Committee report. Next, you'll find several pages related to the Stewardship Committee. There's first a statement of the Presbytery's financial position as of the end of the first quarter of 2017. Then on pages 35 to 37, you'll find information regarding first quarter shared mission and per capita giving per church. Pages 38 to 40 show what churches have pledged in 2017 and the per capita they've been assessed. Take a few moments and find your church's information. Is it what you thought it would be? I encourage you to share where your congregation is with your session as you make your report to the session. If you're behind, please do what you can. The chart on the top of page 41 indicates those churches who have pledged the highest amounts for 2017. The bottom chart indicates which churches have pledged the most per member. The concluding financial pages are those for Bluestone and Friends of Bluestone. These are provided for your information. The Mission Committee makes a recommendation at each presbytery meeting as to where the offering that meeting will be sent. This most likely will also be approved as part of the consent agenda. But please note items for information which include work on a new covenant agreement with our partners in Nyeri Presbytery in Kenya, a grant request for a community garden, and the celebration at this meeting of Glenville Presbyterian Church becoming an Earth Cure congregation. Some of the Presbytery committees have provided written reports only for this meeting, since they don't have items to be voted upon. These include the Leadership Team, Nurture Committee, Relations Committee, Vocations Committee, and the Trustees. Please don't think that because they're not oral reports, they aren't important. They are. And I encourage you to take the time to read these reports as they provide important and valuable information on many areas of our Presbytery's mission and life together. You will find a great deal of information shared by committees and others at this meeting. One expectation of ruling elder commissioners and even teaching elders is that they will report the work of the presbytery at this meeting at the next session meeting. Please note events and other information that are taking place and share these with your session. I would particularly lift up that the Vocations Committee is planning to begin another cycle of the Authorized Lay Preacher Commissioned Ruling Elder Preparation Program in September 2018. You will also in the Relations Committee report see their plans for triennial visits. At the end of the committee reports is the time for Presbytery to take up any new business that was introduced before the lunch break. One final note. As we gather in councils of the church, including this presbytery meeting, we do so in faith that God's Spirit is among us and that our task is to discern the will of God as we are led by the Spirit to make decisions. That's why we don't have absentee ballots or proxy votes, and why you're encouraged to come not with your mind made up, but to come with an openness to God's Spirit and a willingness to listen as the Spirit may be speaking in the words of others gathered at this time and as we join together in worship and prayer. This meeting will conclude with a charge and benediction by the moderator. Before leaving the facility, please take time to complete the feedback form and give us your responses, for they help the leadership team and others plan future presbytery meetings. Please put these and your name tags in the boxes or bags as you exit. I hope to see you on Thursday. Any feedback you could provide as to the helpfulness of this video would also be appreciated. Just note this on your evaluation form as well. Thank you.